you better know what's real. You have to start knowing what's real. Indians are the brains of the world. And every time I've gone to India, I've come back changed. But AI is coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And AI is going to wipe out millions and millions of intellectual workers. Do I need an Uber driver? No, gone. That's how fast it's coming.
Yeah.
A baby doesn't learn how to walk unless they fall down. He says, I can't afford it.
Yeah.
I can't afford it. Do you think I'm made of money? See, we don't teach money at school. And that's not a mistake.
If you can throw some light on the difference between the good debt and the bad debt.
I'm $1.2 billion in debt.
1.2?
Billion.
All right, this is Sunil Tulsiani, founder of Private Investment Club. I have Mr. Sneh Desai with me, and we are extremely privileged to be in front of the Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and many amazing books. Robert, thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. All the way from Canada and from India.
Yes.
My honor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Robert, we're going to be having you at the Growth Summit India, September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And after a long time, you're going to be in India in front of 5,000 people. How does it feel?
I'm looking forward to it, because this is one of the most crucial times in the world history, not only India, but also the world history. And education and knowledge and wisdom are more important than ever before. And every time I've gone to India, I've come back changed. There's something about your country. Very, very smart people, but your poverty is incredible. And but every time I go there, and your culture is a very, very old culture. So it's always an interesting visit. So that's what I'm trying to say. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Awesome.
So Robert, as you know that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer.
Right.
So how can we bridge the gap between the both?
Well, I don't think it's possible personally. Poverty is a state of mind.
Yeah.
And you can be highly educated and still poor. Does it make sense to you? I mean, you can be, and a saying, my rich dad had no education because his father died when he was young. He took over the business. So rich dad grew up as an entrepreneur, and the brain forms differently. Our brains, depending on how our culture, where we're raised, family, good people, bad people. So his brain was different than my poor dad. My poor dad was PhD, smart, finished college in just 2 years. Got his PhD at Stanford and all that stuff, but poor. So poverty starts up here someplace. And I'm concerned about that because the gap in India has always been excessive.
Right.
But now it's excessive in America. I have never seen so much homelessness in America.
Yeah.
And it's exploding. So something is really wrong. And that's my concern.
Robert, I've been watching you even more. I mean, I read your book. I followed you for almost 18 years, and then I've heard some of your interviews. And you talk about, the global economy. Something, is coming. And so tell us a little bit about your views on global economy, what's about to come. How do people protect themselves? Go ahead.
Well, I know this about India right now because you gave me a silver coin. India right now is one of the biggest importers of silver because silver is an industrial metal. So I know that. So I'm kind of watching what you guys are doing. Why are you pulling in so much silver? I own silver mines and I own gold mines. So I've always been into precious metals. But I wrote this book here. It's called Fake. And the reason I wrote this book is because it says fake money. Our money is fake. We have fake teachers. So many teachers have no idea when it comes to money. But I'm not just talking about school teachers. On YouTube and all this stuff, there's a lot of people saying, I can make you rich, I can do this and all this. But how do you know they know what they're doing?
Exactly.
And then fake assets. So what I'm excited about going to India to talk about is you better know what's real. You have to start knowing what's real. So I love silver, I love gold, I love real estate, I love my businesses and all this. But as you guys know, because Indians are, you guys are the brains of the world. Do you know what I mean? Indians are the brains of the world. But AI is coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And AI is going to wipe out millions and millions of intellectual workers. So like doctors will lose their jobs. Anybody just in their head, teachers will be wiped out. Because AI is going to be the better teacher. I've already seen the technology for that.
Right.
So this is the biggest change in world history. And we're still teaching kids to go to school and get a job, work hard, save money, and money is fake. And I've never seen such changes. And the US dollar is going down, and the BRICS are coming up, BRIC nations.
Yes.
Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Saudi Arabia. Japan's going to join the BRICS as well as Mexico. So America's coming down too. So that's why I'm excited about going to India and hopefully go back to Canada.
Yes.
Because most of my companies come out of Canada.
Yes.
Because Canada's a resource country.
Yeah, we're going to bring you to Canada as well.
Yeah. But that's why we've got to be better educated today and more aware. Think of this. If you're a school teacher today, many school teachers think, oh, I have a safe, secure job, I have tenure, I have a pension. Gone. What are you going to do when you're 50 years old and it's gone? And it's coming that fast right now. So that's why it's not a time to be complacent about being successful yesterday. Doesn't mean you be successful tomorrow.
And why, sorry, I'm going to ask you this. Why do you think it's great time for people to attend events like Growth Summit India? You talked about what's coming. Your views on that?
Well, it's only a great time we're going to do something about it.
Yes.
I really don't like school. I have a Bachelor of Science degree, but my degree is in oil. See, something that's real. So I make millions in oil. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to be talking to people who want to make changes.
Yes.
So if you're not willing to make a change, don't come. Go back to school and learn nothing. Our school systems in India, all over the world, the problem are the teachers. That's what I wrote here. Fake teachers. How do they know? How do you know what they're talking about? If they're teaching you to get a job and save money and, get a retirement plan, gone. AI is going to wipe them out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are there segments of real estate that are expected to do better or worse in the coming years? You got single family homes, you got multi-units, you got commercial, you got offices, anything like that you would suggest?
Well, the reason I like real estate because you can see, touch, and feel it.
Yes.
Okay. I'm very skeptical of what I call derivative. See, paper is a derivative.
Okay.
So we have REITs, Real Estate Investment Trust. I don't trust anything paper,
I see.
a derivative. In silver, it's SLV, it's a ETF.
Yes.
Gold is GLD. I don't have any of that. I only have what I can see, touch, and feel. So the trouble with real estate is real estate is dependent upon jobs. So with AI coming, bam. So one of the reasons I moved here to Arizona 25 years ago is a little company called Taiwan Semiconductors moved here. So Taiwan Semiconductors has one of the biggest plants not too far from here. So they call, the Silicon Valley in California. Over here in Phoenix, it's called Silicon Desert. So when technology moved to Arizona, I moved too. So it's jobs, but the thing is AI is going to change it all again.
I see.
So our changes are coming faster and faster and faster. So who should come to these events? People who are looking to change. If you just kind of come and I'm going to tell you buy real estate, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say it's going to change on you. So if you don't want to change, or you want everything to be the same, don't come.
So when you say change, what kind of mindset do you suggest people should have during this change, and especially for investing and building wealth?
Well, that's a very good question, because I don't like teachers, school teachers. I flunked out of school so many times. I'd argue with them, They'd tell me to get a job. And I'd say, I don't want a job. And they go, but you have to have a job. I said, I don't want a job. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But then instead of telling me, well, why don't you become an entrepreneur? They just said, I got flunked every single time. So I did really well. I went to military school. There's 5 federal academies in America. Army, which is West Point, Navy, which is Annapolis, Coast Guard, Air Force, and Merchant Marine Academy. I did well in those schools because I had to do something. So people like me will do well because I can do something. But if I'm just an academic school teacher like this, gone. So what I'm saying to people is you better have a job where you have to do something. So there's 4 intelligence we all have. Mental, which is important. You have spiritual, which is a spirit. You have emotional, and you have physical. So I would be looking for something that requires me to be mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. So if I'm an auto mechanic, I'll always have a job because they're moving things around and all this. So as long as it requires you do something with your hands, your brain, handling stress and change, you have a chance. But if you're just a talking head or you're a doctor, you're gone. I don't need a radiologist. AI can read it. Do I need an Uber driver? No, gone. That's how fast it's coming.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying to people.
Just before we started the interview, we talked about the book that really changed my life. And
Thank you.
as you know,
And everyone's life in India.
there's 1.4 billion people in India, and everywhere I go to in India, they talk about this book. They code this book, right?
Yeah.
So it had a huge impact on me. Can you talk a little bit about, how this book came about, how it became, even today, it's #1 bestseller. How did that happen?
Can you believe that? 25 years is still #1 in the world.
It's crazy.
And I flunked out of school because I can't write.
Well, I heard you say once that you're not best writing author, you're the best
Selling.
Selling
Yes,
author.
And I remember that as we were writing our books. So yeah, please tell us,
Well, it's a true story of my 2 dads. Poor dad was a PhD. Poor, helpless, desperate. Very smart guy, good father, great man. But he didn't know anything about money. What he didn't know was the words in his head kept him poor. I'm not very religious, but I went to Sunday school. And they used to say, and the word becomes flesh. So my poor dad always said this. He says, I can't afford it.
Yeah.
I can't afford it. Do you think I'm made of money? He always said, save money. Well, why would you save it when they're printing it? Even as a kid, I knew they were printing it, but he didn't see it. But his word, he couldn't change his words. And he says, get a job. I said, but what about being an entrepreneur? He didn't know what entrepreneur meant. One day, I was in a newspaper in Hawaii where I grew up. I was called an entrepreneur. My poor dad called me in and said, you see what they wrote about you? I said, what'd they say? They called you an entrepreneur. And I asked my dad, I said, what does that mean to you? It means you're a crook. You're a crook. You're a disgrace of the family. You should be a teacher. I said, I am a teacher. I'm an entrepreneur who teaches. But they're words. Do you know what I mean? The words are the most powerful tools we have. So every time he said, I can't afford it, he got poorer. Makes sense to you?
Yeah, for sure. So you wrote the book, and what inspired you to write the book? And how did it become? There are a lot of authors that that are going to come at the event where you're going to be at, and they are always wondered, if they're going to write their own book, and they're going to want to spread their message, for example. And they're scared, by the way, because they like you said, they're not a good writers. Maybe they never got a PhD in English. But here's a person, you yourself, that wrote a book 25 years ago, and it sold, I don't know how many millions of copies. I don't even know.
Don't know.
But it's a lot, right?
It's still #1 in the world.
In the world.
Can't imagine that.
So can you talk about a little bit how the strategy, maybe some
That's
of
my
the,
next book. No, it's a question I asked myself. I said, why me?
Yeah.
Why me? I didn't do it to be famous, and I didn't do it to make money. But I will say this is the honest God truth. Because there's 4 intelligences: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. And I think to be successful, it takes all 4.
Okay.
So years and years and years ago, in 1981, I was studying with Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller. He invented the geodesic dome. And so in 1967, I hitchhiked from New York to Montreal, Canada, to Expo 67. And the geodesic dome was a U.S. pavilion at the World's Fair. And my poor dad was a student of Fuller. So I went to see the geodesic dome. So that was 1967 in Montreal, Canada. And then he came to Kirkwood, California to do a talk on the future of business. So Bucky Fuller teaching the future of business. He's considered one of the greatest geniuses of our time. He too got kicked out of school. Although Harvard says he's the best graduate. He never graduated from Harvard. He got kicked out like me. But so I went to this 5-day seminar just outside of Lake Tahoe, California. And I'm sitting with all these hippies and socialists and communists. And I said, what am I doing here? I'm listening to this guy Fuller talk about the future of business. And he kept saying the same thing for 5 days. He says, ask yourself, not what you want to do. He says, what does God want done? I went, what? He says, what does God want done? And I went, what the hell is he talking about? So for 5 days, I listened to this guy ask, what does God want done? So I left there after 5 days going, what does God want done? And I could see this crisis today coming. Fuller wrote another book called The Grunge of Giants. That came out in '84 after he died. So Grunge of Giants was about how the world banks, the central banks and all that, steal our wealth via our money. I'll say it again. Our banking system steals our wealth via our money. So when I read Grunge of Giants, not a very good book by Fuller, I knew what I had to do. See, we don't teach money at school, and that's not a mistake. It's important for there to be people to send them to school, make them PhDs from Stanford and all these big schools, but don't teach them about money. And they'll do desperate things. That's saying desperate people do desperate things. And all I wanted to do when he said, what does God want done? I think, I'll just teach money. That's all it was. And I basically taught what my rich dad taught me. This is an asset, this is a liability. This is a financial statement, this is a statement of cash flow. That's all I did. And I made it simple enough so a 10-year-old kid could understand it, because that's how old I was my rich dad started teaching me. The reason I'm a rich man today is not because of what I learned in school. I'm a rich man today because my rich dad taught me definitions of words. Income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow, assets, liabilities, savings, investing. So I speak the vocabulary, the language of money. And so when Bucky, that's all it is. It's the language of money. It's the attitude of money.
Yeah.
Everybody, as far as I know, uses money. Even poor people use money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, how come they don't teach about money?
Yes.
Yeah, but you know what my rich dad did to me, that son of a...
What?
I'm 10 years old. He's teaching me playing Monopoly. I'm going, oh, this is fun, If you're having fun, you're learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 4 greenhouses, 1031 tax-deferred exchange. So I don't pay taxes, I'm making money, having a good time playing this game. So I'm about 10 years old. He says, I said, hey, what's next? He says, now you're going to learn the real game of money. So when I was 10 years old, my rich dad sent his son and me, this is in Hawaii, and he owned low-income housing.
Right.
He says, go collect rent. Oh! Have you collected rent?
I have.
You collected rent? Man, that's an education.
Yes.
So I'm 10 years old. Your rent's... And again, it goes back to what I learned in Sunday school. The word becomes flesh. The people without money said the same words. You think I'm made of money? It's you rich guys that take advantage of us poor guys. You guys are you're the crooks there. They should. I'm 10 years old. And that's where it starts up here.
So if they should teach about money in school, why don't they?
They can't.
They can't. They can't.
No.
Okay.
Because they're designed not to teach money. Everything school teaches you keeps you poor.
Right.
Look, one of the biggest mistakes schools make a mistake on, they tell you don't make mistakes.
Yes.
Well, how do you learn something you don't make a mistake?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? A baby doesn't learn how to walk unless they fall down. So could you imagine being a little baby, you fall down, teacher goes, you stupid kid, you stupid, you'll never walk. The kid would never walk.
Good point.
And so you've got to choose your teachers wisely.
Yes.
What I found out about education, this is centuries long, it was designed to keep people poor. What they were looking for was the brightest, the smartest students, and then make them their attorneys, their accountants. It was a story of King Arthur and his court. King Arthur was only looking for the smartest people to make them okay, you're my knight because you can fight. You'll be my attorney. You'll be my metallurgist. So education was set up by the king or the queen or the royalty to look for the smartest people to work for them.
Employees.
That's what I found out.
Yeah.
It made sense.
In India, parents teach their children that debt is bad, debt is dangerous. And if you can throw some light on the difference between the good debt and the bad debt.
Well, that's a very good question because it goes back further than that.
Yeah.
In 1971, the US dollar, which today is a reserve currency of the world, became debt. When President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, the US dollar became debt. So the only way money comes into existence is you've got to borrow it.
Yeah.
If we stop borrowing money, economy stops. So that's why debt is now out of control. I'm not saying it's good or bad. So why America and the world's in serious trouble? You have Federal Reserve banks, you have the Treasury Department, you have all these academics who don't know how to use debt. So I was taught to use debt to get rich. Most people use debt to get poor. But the thing is, money is debt. And so there's other people, like this guy Dave Ramsey, he's a friend of mine. He says live debt free. I'm $1.2 billion in debt.
1.2?
Billion.
With the B, guys.
But I use debt as money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have financial education, listen to Dave Ramsey, live debt free. Again, it goes back to your teacher. Who is your teacher?
I heard you when I was in Japan in the back stage, you telling me you made more money in 2008, 2009 than you ever had made before that because I think you lined up your money or something like that.
Market crashed.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
market crashed? And also you had lined up your money to be able to buy real estate. Is that correct?
You got to understand money.
Yes.
Okay, in 1971, money became debt.
Okay.
If you know that.
Yeah.
So money doesn't come into existence until a capitalist like me or somebody with a credit card says, I want to borrow money.
Okay.
So we have to have people borrowing money.
Right.
It's called the bond market. All this stuff is debt. So we knew 2008 was coming. There's a video of me. I'm I'm on CNN with Wolf Blitzer saying Lehman Brothers is going down. It was so obvious. Everybody could see it coming. But as soon as it came down, the whole real estate market crashed because it was based upon subprime real estate. Not that the real estate was subprime, they were lending it to subprime borrowers, people with no credit. So as soon as it crashed, the banks needed somebody who could borrow.
Uh-huh.
Does it make sense to you?
Yeah.
So I show up at the bank and I said, guess what? I want to borrow some money. Please give it to me.
Yes.
How much do you want?
Really?
Yeah, because I have a financial statement. Rich
Yes.
Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
It's a book on a financial statement.
Yeah.
My financial statement is my report card. You know, it shows how smart I am with money or not. So when I showed my bankers, this is how much money I'm using with debt, he goes, so I borrowed $300 million.
I remember that. I remember
They
that.
have to lend you money or the bank goes bankrupt. That's money. They'll never teach you that in school. So I wouldn't recommend borrowing money unless you're going to
Coming to this event or learn.
Well,
or
a
something.
student of it.
Yeah.
I'm a student of money.
Yes, student of money.
And I learned how to, I started small. My first property was only $18,000. I bought it with a credit card. But I had to learn to take that $18,000 in debt and make money with it.
Yeah.
So one of the greatest skills I have that most academics don't have, I can take debt and get rich. That's a capitalist.
So, Robert, India has become a $1 trillion economy now. And
Mr. Modi.
yeah. So, what do you predict for India's future as an economy point of view?
You guys are importing more silver than anybody else I know of. Because silver is an industrial metal. It's going to be used in EVs and
Yeah.
the future. So I see India as moving forward, but also as in education. Every time you see Indian kids of Indian descent, their heads and shoulders above smarter than anybody else.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to have you in India, and there will be 5,000 people waiting for you. Super excited. Everyone has read your books. They follow you on YouTube, and we are really looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to, but I'm going to say this to all the people out there. Only come if you're willing to take action.
Yeah.
That's
You've got
right.
to be willing to change. You want me to give you the same old answers, I'm not going to do that. Okay.
That's awesome.
Real estate, there will always be a real estate business, but real estate's changing.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that at the event.
Everything's changing so fast right now. So if you come to just be patted on the back and say, hey, smart, no. where the world is in serious change right now.
Yes.
So come to change.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Robert Kiyosaki, Sneh Desai, yours truly, Sunil Tulsiani, September 1st, September 2nd, September 3rd, Growth Summit in India, Mumbai. And we want you to come. And like Robert says, only come if you're willing to change. If you want to succeed, you want to go to the next level. And we truly look forward to seeing you. All the best.